Hello and welcome to Inside the Americas here on France 24. I'm Rochelle Harrison-Pless. Coming up on today's show. On course to claim the US Republican Party crown, billionaire tycoon Donald Trump clinches a stunning victory in the Indiana primary vote, forcing rival Ted Cruz to drop out of the presidential race. Spiraling deeper into political turmoil, Venezuela's opposition has collected millions of signatures for a petition that calls for a referendum to oust embattled leader Nicolas Maduro. And we meet the black hole hunters. Scientists in Mexico hope to unlock the mysteries of the universe by capturing images of the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. But first, we begin in the US and the race to the White House. Another one bites the dust. Ted Cruz was forced to drop out of the US presidential race after a stunning landslide victory by Republican frontrunner Donald Trump in the Indiana primary. It now means the billionaire tycoon is on course to claim the party crown. Laurent Berstecker reports.
The end of the road for Ted Cruz. Addressing a visibly moved crowd in Indianapolis, the Texas senator officially conceded defeat in the race for the Republican nomination.
Together, we left it all on the field in Indiana. We gave it everything we've got. But the voters chose another path. And so, with a heavy heart, we are suspending our campaign.
Ted Cruz was the last remaining obstacle standing between Donald Trump and the Republican nomination. Having clinched over 80% of the necessary delegates, the controversial billionaire is now considered the presumptive Republican candidate, even if Ohio Governor John Kasich said he would stay in the race. But if Trump is to have a chance in November's general election, he will have to unite a Republican Party that remains deeply divided over his candidacy.
I have met some of the most incredible competitors that I have ever competed against right here on the Republican Party. You know, we started off with that 17 number, and we want to keep them totally involved because we're going to win. We're going to win in November.
The build-up to Tuesday's vote had been tense, with Ted Cruz unleashing a series of desperate attacks against Trump, calling him utterly amoral and a pathological liar. An outburst that didn't impact the polls, but that the Texas senator could regret, as he may yet have, to endorse his rival.
And in the Democratic race, it was Bernie Sanders who clinched victory in the Indiana primary, defeating fellow presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton. But unfortunately for the Vermont senator, his win is not expected to slow his rival's march to the White House. The Democratic frontrunner already has more than 90% of the delegates she needs to pocket the party nomination. Next, Venezuela is suffering a severe economic crisis, but political strife is threatening to plunge the country into further turmoil. The opposition is calling for a referendum to topple the embattled socialist leader Nicolas Maduro, presenting a petition to electoral authorities with nearly 2 million signatures collected so far. Catherine Clifford has more.
Arm raised and defiant, the Venezuelan leader addresses his supporters. A Labor Day appearance that hammers home the power of his socialist government.
They're not just trying to overthrow Maduro. They're trying to overthrow history, overthrow Chavez. They're overthrowing the country's legacy.
They are the opposition, which holds a parliamentary majority. They're calling for a referendum to oust the Venezuelan president. And Maduro's now said he'll allow the vote if electoral officials are able to validate all the signatures on the opposition's petition.
We've gathered 1.85 million signatures from Venezuelans demanding a recall referendum.
Oil exporting Venezuela has the world's highest proven reserves, but is dependent for its electricity and hydro energy. The huge energy crunch is currently leaving thousands of homes cut off for several hours a day, a source of anger amongst many Venezuelans. In a bid to calm tensions, Maduro announced several new measures, such as putting the clocks forward by half an hour. The idea is to save electricity, but not everyone's convinced it will make much difference.
I think this measure won't help because the underlying problem is the oversight and negligence when it comes to the maintenance and investment in new equipment to renovate the national energy system.
But this wasn't the only energy-saving idea up Maduro's sleeve.
The public administration will work only on Mondays and Tuesdays during this critical week.
The country is also suffering unprecedented shortages of food and basic supplies, sparked by the collapse in world crude oil prices. A desperate situation which has brought pillaging and violence onto the streets. Maduro's response: to announce a 30% increase to the country's minimum wage. It may sound like a considerable hike, but with inflation at more than 180% for 2015 and still soaring, it makes little difference on the ground.
The Cuban capital rolled out the red carpet for the world's celebrities and fashionistas as French couture label Chanel staged a glittering fashion show, the first since the 1959 Communist Revolution. Also this week, an American ship carrying 700 passengers dropped anchor in Havana after setting sail from Miami. It was the first such crossing in more than 50 years. Crowds of onlookers gathered to see the Adonia pull into dock. The milestone follows Cuba's move to scrap a long-time ban on its citizens entering or leaving the island by sea. Well, staying in Cuba, it's not just tourism that's booming. The property market is thriving, while new bars and restaurants are spreading like wildfire in the capital, Havana. This as the communist island sees improved diplomatic relations with the West. Foreign investors are lining up to take advantage of the changes, but they face a tough business environment, as Clément Bonnereau explains.
Sitting just across from the American embassy, a rooftop bar with a pool and an unobstructed view of the Caribbean Sea. The owner is a French-Cuban entrepreneur born in Havana. He left Cuba when he was 8. Coming back is a dream come true.
Opening a bar here in my hometown, it's fantastic.
Richard was able to invest here because he's half Cuban. In France, he's considered a refugee. He decided to return to Cuba after the US vowed to end a decades-long embargo against the island.
Unconsciously, at the back of my mind, I've always wanted to come back here. I've always known how much potential Cuba has. When I was growing up, I'd wonder, why don't we have this or that? You have to start from scratch here. It's not a gold mine. Cuba is quite small, but there are many opportunities.
New business opportunities have meant that more and more Cubans are now selling their homes. This house is situated in a prime location on Havana's famous seafront boulevard El Malecón. With a living room, 3 bedrooms and a rooftop terrace, it's on sale for €220,000. Investors, however, must comply with some very strict rules.
Foreign investors aren't allowed to buy properties on their own. They must partner up with a Cuban and create a joint venture.
For American citizens, buying Cuban property remains illegal, though this is likely to go away once the US embargo is completely lifted. Most investors come from neighboring countries, including Brazil and Mexico, and also Europe. Pierre is married to a Cuban woman. He bought this restaurant under his wife's name.
If everybody plays the game, respects the rules imposed by the Cuban government, you can do business here. There'd be a boom and more buying power, which would help improve the country's economy.
Half a century after the socialist revolution, Cubans are now dancing to a different tune, that of capitalism.
And finally, they're hunters of a supermassive black hole, scientists hoping to unlock the mysteries of our universe, on a mission to capture a portrait of the hungry monster at the centre of the Milky Way galaxy. The telescope tasked with revealing the giant black hole is just a few hours from Mexico City. Natasha Pizzi and Mathieu Comin went to check it out.
High in the cold, thin air of the Sierra Negra volcano sits one of the world's most extraordinary telescopes, the LMT, and it's gearing up for a big night out. This 50-metre wide dish will try to catch a glimpse of something that, until now, we've only seen in Hollywood. David Hughes has come 4,600 metres above sea level to see how this long-awaited mission is shaping up.
Tonight, we're actually connecting the LMT to a network of telescopes distributed around the world. And the purpose of these observations is to make the first images of a supermassive black hole.
A supermassive black hole. That's a mysterious beast in the middle of our galaxy, engulfing matter millions of times more heavy than our sun and making it appear to vanish. If Einstein was right, it's the black hole that's really pulling the strings for our whole existence. But getting the picture to prove that is a mammoth task. As night envelops the peak, David's team is kicking into action inside the telescope. But being up is tough at the best of times.
You're working with less oxygen, so you need to be more careful on how you make decisions. But otherwise, it's pretty exciting because you're trying to discover what we don't know about the universe.
Tonight, he's helping synchronize the telescope with others in Chile, Arizona, and Hawaii. Together, they're aiming to see the shadow the giant black hole casts on the bright matter swirling around it. That's the only way to map it out. Linking so many intricate telescopes is what Lindy Blackburn's research is all about. He's come to Mexico just to be part of this event.
On the left, for example, here, this is looking at the center of our galaxy with just the LMT. It's just essentially a dot on the sky. And then connecting up all these telescopes, making a large artificial telescope, we zoom in about 1 million times. We start to see some of the structure of the gases flowing right around the black hole.
Dealing with all these telescopes in far-flung places is filled with obstacles. But on this night, everything seems to be going their way.
Okay, vamos a cambiar de galaxia en 20 segundos.
Next year, this project will be even more ambitious, linking 9 telescopes across the world. The quest to understand black holes is really just getting going.
That's it for this edition. Thanks for watching and see you next week.